My name is Faith, but you may call me Unmei. Today I'm going to be showing you a little hair tutorial. First of all, I'm making a simple head sketch from a reference photo I found on Pinterest. It's not going to be an exact copy, it's kind of just going to be me using it as a little example. This will be our main example that I'm going to make into a complete drawing. So starting out, we have to analyze the reference photo that we're going to be working with, of course. Here we're just looking at the general overall sense of the shape. Now it's important to understand where the hair grows out of, so this is going to be the hairline. This is the origin point of the hair, where every shape is going to follow from. Let's make a few examples of different types of hair. We're going to look at 3 different types of hair today. First is wavy hair, which is going to be kind of like a ribbon the way that it falls. To simplify things, you should actually think of the strands of hair as ribbons. It's a little bit easier to draw that way. Now straight hair, of course, is going to be a lot looser than wavy hair. We're basically judging the hair on how much it wraps around itself and how tightly it does. For curly hair, the strands are really taut. They actually wrap around each other in a very tightly woven kind of way. Now that we have our 3 examples of different types of hair, we can move on to practice sketches. Starting off in the same order as before, we're going to start with wavy hair. So because we don't want our character to have a 5 head, or we also don't want, a tiny little forehead, we're gonna start with the hairline. You gotta start with the hairline first so you know exactly where the hair is going to grow out of and fall. So as we learned before, wavy hair has kind of this, wave to it. It's not gonna be curly, it's not gonna be straight, it's kind of just in between. It is called wavy hair for a reason. It kind of looks like a little wave. Because we already established where the hairline is on the head, these little waves are just gonna come right from there. It's also really helpful to study pictures of actual wavy hair so you can get the impression, the overall look of wavy hair. References are extremely useful for all different types of hair. Actually, references are just useful for everything in drawing. Use references, guys, please. At this point, we're filling out the hair with more waves. We're just trying to get that silhouette to look right. The way to determine if it looks right is the overall silhouette of the hair. If everything is flowing nicely and everything seems balanced, remember to flip the canvas, by the way, then you're good. Alright, it's time to do straight hair. Remember the hairline, no 5 head, no short head. We want that good medium ratio. Unless your character canonically has a 5 head or a small head, that's fine too. We don't judge here. So now we're just gonna keep on going with the straight hair. It's basically the same principle as the wavy hair. Each strand is gonna come out from that base hairline at the top of the head. I didn't draw the hairline in yet for this piece because I just kind of instinctively know that it's there. But if it helps you, you can always draw it in first, as long as you're keeping it in mind for each strand that you draw. Last but not least, we have curly hair. Draw that hairline in and let's get started. I like to start with little spirals. They kind of look like little coils, little springs, little tornadoes, really anything that's spirally. This type of hair is very voluminous. It's going to have a lot of bounce, a lot of volume, a lot of height off of the head. This hairstyle is kind of done in sections, so it's not going to be quite as voluminous as the rest of the hair. Some of it is going to be pinned down, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty voluminous. I like that word, voluminous, voluminous, voluminous. And as we practiced earlier, this type of hair is going to be in tight little curls, tight coils, I guess. Thinking of the hair as a ribbon, it's definitely going to be a lot easier for you to visualize how it wraps around itself and how it falls. I will admit this type of hair does take longer to draw, but I feel like the results are usually worth it. Because of that though, I am going to speed up this process a little bit more than the others. And there we have it, 3 different types of hair. It's time to go all the way back to the first piece that I was working on, which was a person with straight hair, and we're going to make that into a finished piece so I can use that for the thumbnail. Here we are back at the first piece that I started in the beginning of this video. Using all of the helpful tricks that we learned earlier in this video, we can confidently make these strands. It's a part of my style to have the hair a little bit more sharp, if that makes sense. Certain strands will be more sharp, kind of like actual paper. Thinking about the hair in sections rather than each individual strand is really going to help you make the shape, the overall shape of the hair, look cohesive together. Think about how each strand falls over each other. They overlap each other, and sometimes it looks like they're one big shape. Once you've established the whole shape that you want for the hair, it's okay to get into more of the details of each strand. Just try not to overwhelm yourself with making each hair perfect, because each hair is not going to be perfect, and that's okay. As you can see zoomed in, it is a little bit messy, but you can clean it up later, so don't worry too much about it. What we do want to keep in mind though is something called line weight. Line weight is really important for hair. Specifically in my work, I do like to focus on thicker lines at the end of the hair and at certain curve points, if that makes sense. Even if you don't do line art in your work, you still can implement this when you're rendering. Certain parts will be thicker as indicated by the red lines, and certain parts will be thinner as indicated by the light blue lines. Moving back to the actual piece we're working on right now, we're just going to start defining the hair a little bit more and, of course, placing in that hairline that I keep on constantly nagging you with. I know, it's annoying, but I promise you, it's very, very helpful. This is the personal thing that I like to do, but I like to make the very corner of the hair right in front of the forehead kind of sharp. I don't know why, it's just kind of something that I do. You can do it in your work too, because personally I think it looks nice. I've also seen that done a lot in anime, so I like to just do what I see in anime sometimes. Let's start focusing on the left side of the hair because it has gone untouched and it's so very sad, but now we're going to give it a little bit of love and attention. And here we're just going to utilize the same tip of the thick to thin ratio. I'm going to speed this part up because you've basically already seen this before. Now we're getting very close to the coloring portion, so if you don't know how to color in Procreate, it's actually pretty simple. Here's a little quick demonstration. You just want to use your preferred line art tool and be sure all the gaps are closed in your line art. You can't have anything open or this trick will not work for you. Now we're going to make a new layer by pressing the plus button at the top right of the screen. Going to pull that layer underneath the line art layer, and then set the line art layer to reference. We can simply click on the color at the very top and drag it right in with our finger and drop it into the line art. Make sure you're dropping the color onto the color layer that you put underneath the line art. Then we click on the alpha lock layer on the color layer. Make sure that's the color layer. And essentially what this does is that we can color inside of the lines. We're not going to go outside the lines. Now that we understand how to drop our colors directly into the line art, we can start shading. I personally like to use the lasso tool at the top left of the screen, combining it with the airbrush in order to make a nice gradient. This is basically how we're going to make all of our shapes moving forward with the hair. With the lasso tool, we're going to make the shading and the highlights of the hair. For the shadows, they're going to look a little more triangular, and with the highlights of the hair, they're kind of just these odd little chunky shapes that I made up. I don't really know how to describe it. You should also add some highlight to the very top of the head because that's where it's going to catch the most light. I also added a blue hue to the bottom strands of the hair because I thought it would contrast nicely with the reddish tone. I also find adding a few stray strands here and there does help to add some texture and realism to your piece. Ta-da! We're done with the piece! I hope you learned a little something from this tutorial. If you got anything out of it, then I'm very glad. And be sure to comment down below what you would like to see from me next. Whether it's a tutorial, a challenge, or just maybe one of your own ideas that you come up with. I'd be more than happy to consider it. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like, a comment, and maybe even subscribing. Bye bye!